right, hi everyone. Welcome to Boost Your Productivity with Google Workspace. My name's Dean. Great to see you all here already, and hello to those of you that catch up on demand. This will be a video on my YouTube channel. Well, I used to be a Google employee, and now I spend my time helping people use technology better, whether that's Google Workspace or Chromebooks or something completely different, maybe Canva or some other app. But today we're going to cover a few different things. I'm basically going to split this up kind of into a workday, right? So imagine that in a workday, the first part of your day might be daily admin, just checking the emails, looking at your calendar, figuring out what you've got to do for the day. Then we're going to look at project management or, maybe some deeper work on things that you've got going on right now. And then we'll imagine that maybe you've got some sales and marketing to do. You've got to promote something that you're doing, or you want to let people know about an event coming up, something like that. And all of the tips and updates are going to center around those three parts of the day. And obviously at the end, we'll do some Q&A as well. So you'll be able to ask me questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat throughout. I'll do my best to keep an eye on it because this is all going to be live demos. I'm doing it really genuinely live in front of your eyes. And then I'll actually do some demonstrations for the questions later on as well. All right, well, shall we jump straight in then? Let's imagine at the beginning of the day, the first thing I'm going to check on my Chromebook here is my email. And if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my computer down here whilst I do this. And I can see I've got this new email from Tanya. Now, before I check it, just one quick thing you might not realize is that you can right-click emails in Gmail. One thing I like to use this for is to choose the option that says find emails from that same person that sent me that one. And if I click that, it basically does a search for me. It just saves me going and doing that manually, but it's a good quick way to go and find all of the previous emails. Looks like I missed one from Tanya here previously. Okay, well, let's look at what Tanya is asking me for here. It's quite a wordy email. I can't be bothered to read all of that. So on the top right of the screen, I'm going to click Gemini. It's not really that I can't be bothered. I just don't have time right now. And when I click that Gemini icon in the top right of the screen, I'm going to choose Summarize this email, and then I can press Enter on my keyboard. And that's going to give me a summary of that email that Gemini has just looked at, maybe a bit quicker. It's still a good amount of detail there, but kind of summarizes what Tanya has said. So that's helpful. That saved me a bit of time already. And the whole point behind my YouTube channel and Workspace Boost is to help you save time using Google Workspace. So now what I might do is say, actually, I need to chat to Tanya. I think I already have a meeting with her. So I'm going to ask Gemini, when is my next meeting with Tanya, like this, and hit enter. And Gemini can actually see my calendar. So it's going to come back. Hopefully it would come back with something in my calendar. Typically it hasn't done it in the live demo. Just every time I've tested it, it has. Okay, when is my next scheduled meeting with Tanya in calendar? Let's see if I can get the answer that I want here. There we go. So now it's showing me that meeting in calendar. I've not had to separately go there and look at it. And if I click on this one-to-one with Tanya, it's going to pop open my calendar here and show me that meeting in my calendar like this. So that's really helpful, right? I've not had to really think about it. I can just ask a question and then get what I need here. Now, whilst we're on calendar, you can see that my calendar here is pretty colorful, and that's because I time block my calendar and then use different colors to help me understand how I'm spending my time. So if I right click on any event on calendar, you might not realize again that you can right click on events in calendar. I can change the colors. Now, I don't just have colors here, which is what you might see when you do this. I've actually got labels, and that's because if you click this plus button here, you can actually add a label to each of these colors. Let me try again and actually left click here. There we go. Here's my label list. It's got a color next to each one. And if I want to add a new one, I click the plus, I choose the color, and I can add a label. Now, you could add labels for different projects. It could be different clients that you're working with, different subjects that you teach if you're a teacher, or any way that works for you. Now, on here, I've got one for personal, one for a particular project, one for team meetings. The reason I find this helpful, though, is that I like to reflect on how I've been spending my time. So on the left-hand side of calendar, there's this option that says more insights over here. If I click there, then it gives me this breakdown of how I've spent my time with those labels. So the by color option up here is already selected. I can see 3 hours is personal. When I mouse over it, pops out and shows me that's mostly lunch times. I've got Project Alpha I've spent 11 hours on. That's good. That's the main bulk of the money that's coming in right now, for example. 2 hours in team meetings and so on. So if you are worried that you're spending too much time in meetings and you want to check, use these colors, then use time insights in calendar to let you know how you're spending your time. And in fact, let's just go back to today here. One thing actually that annoys me about calendar is I get all of this extra space taken up with the weekends here. So if I click on the cog, the settings gear on the top of the screen here, I can go to settings. And if I scroll down, one of the things that you can do in view options here is uncheck the box to show weekends. So if you use a personal Gmail account, you might put personal things in at the weekends as well. But for work, I just find that weekends get in the way. So I'm going to uncheck that, go back, and you see now I've got all of this space just for Monday to Friday. It gives me more space for these events, which personally I find more helpful. All right, what have I got on in calendar here though? It says I need to analyze some workshop feedback sentiment. Okay, well, if I go to my Google Drive, in here, I've got this spreadsheet of workshop feedback that I need to look at. So last thing we're going to do in this kind of daily admin, it's a daily task that I've been given by my boss. And they've told me that I need to look at this feedback from this event. There's, I don't know, 20 rows of data here, and decide whether people were positive about the event, whether they were neutral, negative, or if they were mixed. Now, I could obviously go through, read all these and do that manually, but a good way to do this is to use Gemini again. So if I type equals here, I can actually write a formula now using AI. I can prompt Gemini in any cell. Now, obviously, I've written one earlier, so let me paste that in here. So I do equals AI. Then I put in the prompt in speech marks. So in this case, I'm saying, analyze the overall sentiment from the feedback shared about the event, classify it as positive, negative, neutral, or mixed. And then I tell it which cells I want it to look at for that feedback. And if I hit enter now, it's going to save that in here. Sheets does the job and says, oh, it looks like you probably want to use this formula in the rest of this column as well. So I can click the tick to copy that down. And the way these AI formulas work is rather than work straight away, I have to click this little Gemini button that pops up here. So I can do it for one cell like this. So if I click generate and insert, it's going to look at that data, come back, and then give me the sentiment here. But I could click and highlight all of these cells. So I've clicked the first one, I'm holding shift, I'm clicking the bottom one, then I can click this button here that says generate and insert. And it's going to go through all of these cells now. You see it's doing it one by one and showing me whether it's positive or negative. So this is pretty good. Now, the reason I wanted to show you this was not just because it's helpful right now, and you can do this in a spreadsheet right now, but there's a new feature coming to Workspace soon, whenever that might be, I hope sooner rather than later, called Workspace Flows. So I want to give you a quick walkthrough of what that's going to look like. But Workspace Flows will basically allow you to do this job automatically in the background, and then maybe even draft the email to be sent to the person in response to their feedback to save you doing it manually. So let me bring this video up here. You can see that I'm selecting the ability to ask Gemini something based on a response coming in from a form. So I'm just saying, take a look at the form response and then prioritize it based on a document full of how customer feedback is prioritized, and then give it a priority. Then take that information that you've gleaned from it and post it in a chat space like this. And so in the chat space, Gemini would have done the work in the background and then give the team a summary along with the priority here. This is mind-blowing. It will save tons of time. Another thing you can do though is link this in with gems. Gems are like custom AI agents that you can create in Gemini. And a gem could have instructions for how to draft the email. So aside from just giving the team that information, the next step might be to take that information into the gem and then draft the person's email, the email response. So that's the step being added here. So to the email address of the person that submitted that feedback, the output created by that gem, which drafts the emails, and then it will go and create that email draft in Gmail for you. So like I said, I think this is a massive time saver, just one small example of how it could work. And if you heard some words there, you have no idea what I'm talking about, like gems, for example. I created a whole video on how to create and use gems that you can go and find in my channel. And by the way, I'm going to send out a recap to this to all of the Workspace Boost subscribers. So if you don't already subscribe to the newsletter, do that at the end. I'll give you a QR code to sign up. Okay, that's the end of the daily admin. Let's look how we're checking in. Abid spotted my meaningless admin and tedious tasks on my calendar. Nice one. Yeah, the AI formula is pretty new. It's worth playing around with. You can do a few different things. There are some nice examples in Google Sheets. And I created another quick 2-minute video about that as well that you can find on my channel. So Workspace Flows. I really hope it comes sooner rather than later, because that is going to unlock a whole bunch of amazing ways to use this, particularly if you're like a one-man band running a business or trying to juggle lots of things. Like if you're a teacher, you might have parents contacting you, you've got the senior team getting in touch, and so on. Okay, next part of the day then. Let's imagine we've got some project management to do. So this time, I'm actually going to create a new sheet. The way that I'm going to do this is type sheets.new in my Omnibox. That's where I put the internet, the URL at the top of the screen. And you can do this for anything. So you could do docs.new, sheets.new, slides.new. And when I hit enter, sheets.new is going to go and create a new spreadsheet for me here. Now, tables is quite a recent feature. It gives me some options over here to create tables. I'm going to ignore that for now. I'm actually going to just click this button though that says help me create a table, or I could click the Gemini button at the top of the screen here. So I click help me create a table. And again, I've got a prompt that I've pre-written here, and I'm going to run this prompt. It just says create a table listing 30 upcoming tasks required for a Project Alpha product launch. Include relevant columns and rows of tasks, including a start and end date for each one. Now, in this example, I'm actually getting it to come up with the tasks, but you already might have tasks. You could just get Gemini to help you with how it looks. But here's what it does. It comes up with everything here, and I've got the option just to insert the table over here. So I'm going to close this side panel with Gemini now. Let's have a look. I've got all of these tasks here. I've got a department, the start date, and the end date. Now, tables is a really great way to organize spreadsheets. And again, I made a video very recently, which is a beginner's guide to spreadsheets. And I cover tables in there because I think now if you're a beginner on sheets, this is the way you should start using spreadsheets. So let's imagine that I'm organizing this project. It's a product launch, but I want to understand, what does the timeline look like? Gantt charts are very popular in companies globally. Now, there isn't a Gantt feature in Sheets, but there is something called Timeline. So if I go to the Insert button at the top of the screen here and then choose Timeline, it will ask me the range, but it's already picked up that I have a table of data here. So I click OK, and it's created this timeline of all of the tasks that I've got to do. Looks pretty overwhelming at the moment, maybe not that helpful as it is, but it's picked up the start date and the end date of each task from that sheet. So what I'm going to do now, if I scroll down, I like to group these by department. So if I choose department on this list here, you see now on this list of responsibilities, management have a section, marketing has a section, development has a section, testing, and so on, like this. And I can even make these nice colors based on the colors in the sheet here. So you see each department has been given a different color here. So if I go back to my timeline, one of the options on the right is card color. So I click there, choose department, and now it's going to make all of those different boxes the color of the department in the previous sheet, which is really nice. So if you've not seen timelines before, I think that's a super helpful way of tracking projects as you go. Okay, now one thing, imagine I'm running this project, but I need to get people to sign up to the wait list for my new product that I'm launching. So I'm going to create a form to do that. If you've never used Google Forms, it's one of the quickest ways to collect information from people. And it could be about anything. It could be a sports club at a school. It could be a sign up for a newsletter. It could be registration for an event. The way I'm going to do it, similar to how I created the sheet, I just type forms.new in my browser like this and hit enter. And now Gemini is built into Forms. So the first thing I get is a prompt to create a form. Again, I've already written a prompt. it's a little bit more detailed. It's only a sentence, but you could create something less detailed or more detailed if you want to, that goes into way more detail. You could tell Gemini all of the fields you want, or just tell it the general idea of the form and it will create something for you. So if I click create here, I'm just saying sign up form for a new product waitlist, include the first name, surname, email, location, and a space for any comments. So I click create, and it's going to go to work and create this form for me. Now, it's always been quick to create forms, but Gemini just makes it even quicker. So there we go. Here's my form: first name, surname, email address, location, and comments. And I can create that like that. Straight away now, I could publish this, send it to people, and get them to sign up to my waitlist. All right, one last thing. When I'm doing project management, one of the things that I like to do is use Gemini and have a chat in Gemini just focused on that particular project that I'm working on. Now in Gemini, there's a new feature called audio overviews, which has previously been in another tool called Notebook-LM. But if I click on the Files button at the top of the screen here, it says Files in this chat. I click there, I can add files. Now the thing I'm about to show you, for some reason, right now, only works with PDFs. So I'm going to click Files to upload some PDFs. And there are 3 PDFs here that I have about this project. So I could give Gemini everything that I have about this project here. And then it will be able to create me what's called an audio overview. So you see, when these files have uploaded here, a button has now come up called audio overview. So the first thing I might do is actually just ask questions about my project. I could say, oh, when's a particular deadline, or who's responsible for a particular thing. But the audio overview is just another way to get an overview of everything related to the project. So when I click that button, it's going to start creating basically a pretend podcast. Now it's going to take a few minutes. I'm not going to make you wait a few minutes. So we're going to go to a chat that I have from earlier on. Let me just play this to you for a second.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into the upcoming launch of Project Alpha.
That's right.
We're focusing on, well, 2 main things: how people actually felt about that recent event, and also what the next 30 steps really are to...
There you go. If you've never heard that before, I always find it mind-blowing. I promise you that is synthetic. It's completely made up. They are not real people. Those voices are fake. But if you prefer listening to information, that could be a really good way to take in updates for your project rather than having to sit and read lots of documents. Or you could just ask Gemini questions using the chat box at the bottom. Now, one other update that is coming soon that I think is really interesting related to this is... that's not the video that I want, is this one, is audio overviews in Google Docs. So basically what I've just shown you is an audio overview where I go to Gemini and I upload files and I get Gemini to give me an audio overview. But you will now be able to do that directly inside a Google Doc. I'm going to run it again here. And you'll be able to do it directly inside a Google Doc so that you could listen to the overview of all of the information in that document right there without having to switch tools or anything like that. I've heard those voices so much via Notebook-LM that I feel like I'm getting to know them as people. Yeah, exactly. And actually, if you do use Notebook-LM, I'm not going to cover that today unless there's a question later on, but you can now actually create those audio overviews in different languages, up to 50 different languages. And I expect that we'll get more choice of the voices that are used to create those overviews as well. Okay, so in my day at work, I've done my daily admin, I've done my project management. The last thing we want to look at for this 30-minute webinar here before we get into Q&A is sales and marketing, which is important for anything. You might think, well, I'm not a salesperson, I don't sell anything, but it is very likely that you need to promote something that you do. So you might have to send an email out to a group of people telling them about an event that's coming up. Or you might have to create a website or a presentation to pitch an idea to them. Here's what we're going to start with. We are actually going to imagine that we need to send an email to people about Project Alpha. So let me switch back to my Chromebook here. And in Gmail, I'm going to click on Compose. And in the box that pops up here, down at the bottom here, there's a little button that you might have seen but maybe not even noticed that says Select a Layout, just here. And if I click on that, it allows me to have these really nicely designed emails right inside Gmail. So I'm going to choose just this announcement one, for example. Gives me an example of what it could look like. And then I click Edit Layout. Now, at the moment, my screen is quite zoomed in and I want to create more space. So I'm actually going to click this button up at the top here that says Edit in Full Screen. And I really think you should do the same. It's much easier. And these layouts that you create will actually get saved inside your Google Drive. So you can easily come back to them either from the button that I just clicked or in Google Drive directly. So here's the example that's there. I can basically add like blocks of content inside here, social links. One of the first things you're going to want to do is edit the theme. So you can go in here, you can go to edit on the theme. You can do things like change the colors. So I might update the default color to like, let's say this kind of dark green here. I go down again, make sure all the colors are selected properly down here. Like so. And then at the top here, you're probably going to want to update the logo. So I click on what's there right now. I choose the 3 dots, replace the image, and upload my logo here. If I click this button, it will expand it to have everything, let's say Project Alpha coming soon. Maybe I don't want the image, so I can just click on it and delete it. But you get the idea. This is going to be something more than just a plain email that you might send. It's going to look a bit nicer by the time it lands in someone's inbox. And once you've created a theme with your branding, then you can just always use that theme for layouts that you create. You can also collaborate on these. So I can click the share button at the top of the screen here to share it with a colleague and we can work on the layout together. But once I'm ready, I can insert it in Gmail. And so it's going to create a draft email here that drops this layout into the email, and I can just send this like I would any other email. And depending on the version of Google Workspace that you're using, you might also have the ability to use mail merge. So there's a button on the right hand side here that would allow you to send to a list of email addresses from a spreadsheet right from Gmail as well. So there's your email marketing. Next, you might have to create a presentation to pitch that new product. So we're going to go to slides.new this time and hit enter. That's going to give me a new slides presentation. And I wanted to show you these brand new templates that have just been released in Google Slides. Now, for years, Slides has had kind of themes and templates, but they always looked like they were from 1995. These are really nice modern versions of templates. And if you don't see this pop up when you start Slides, what you need to do is just click on the button on the right here that says templates, and you can choose one of them. So I might choose, I don't know, let's have a look what we've got. A show-stopping product pitch. When I click on it, it shows me all of the templates inside. I think that one's a bit dark actually. So let's go down. What else have we got? Maybe this one, like a project timeline presentation could be good. I could still use this. Insert all slides, and it's going to drop all of those slides in here, and I can just go and edit them however I like. Now, it might be, though, that you don't like any of those templates and you just want to make your slides look nicer somehow. Well, Slides has also just introduced building blocks, which have been around in Docs for a while. If I click on building blocks, the difference in Slides is they're kind of like graphics and shapes and things that I can drop in. So, for example, if I go to headlines, there are these cool headlines that I can just click to drop into a slide. So even if I just had a plain white slide, I could use one of these to save myself having designed this with shapes and different things like that. So there's some updates in Slides. Then we're going to look at a similar thing in Google Docs. So again, if I go to docs.new, that's a way that I can create a brand new Google Doc. Hit enter, gives me a blank Google Doc here. And this time I'm going to click on File at the top of the screen, then New, and I've got the option here that says From a Template. So File, New, From a Template like this, and I can choose any of these, again, good looking templates. Like with Slides, Docs has had templates for a while, but again, they looked a bit old, not very modern. These are really nice modernized designs, and they use a new feature in Docs called tabs. So let's imagine I want a project kickoff document here. Similar to Slides, it shows me the different parts of this template once I've clicked on it. So it's going to load in here and give me the different tabs. So here's the kind of front page with the kickoff. If I click here, I can see, okay, there's team and stakeholders on here. So let's click Insert. There we go. We've got this nice looking document and graphic at the top. It's structured. I can use these things called smart chips to add information. And I've got the tabs on the left-hand side with the different parts of that document. Really nice way to use docs. And if you really love tabs, don't forget that you can add emojis on the left-hand side as well. So I can click choose emoji, and as it says kickoff, let's look for a foot there. There we go. It's a project kickoff on the left-hand side. Okay, last thing I'm going to show you before we get into Q&A. You might just be sick of creating slides. You know, we've all done presentations, we've all sat through death by PowerPoint and Google Slides. So instead, you might want to create a video. If you haven't seen it, Google released a tool at the end of last year called Google Vids. And again, I can type vids.new to go and create a new Google Vid. And it's a video editor in the web that's integrated with Google Drive and the rest of Google Workspace. Again, like with the others, I can prompt Gemini to create a video for me, or I can just choose a template from the get-go here to create something. So maybe I'm just going to choose this brainstorming one here. It shows me the scenes inside the video, and I can insert them like so. And I can go through and I can edit this video. It might be that I record myself speaking to explain a new proposal, for example. I could even add in stock footage from the web, so I can go and search for something that I want, or images. There's music on here as well. But the latest feature in Google Vids is actually the ability to generate video inside Google Vids. So I might say something like a working professional typing on a keyboard at a sleek wooden desk. Camera slowly zooms in. Hit create. This is going to take a moment. It's creating this video. So AI is generating this video. It's not a piece of stock footage. And this is really good when there isn't a piece of stock footage that is going to fit with the video that you're making. So let's see what we get. It's going to take a moment to generate, but I do want to show you the output of this. And whilst we're doing this, in a moment, we're going to go to Q&A. So if you have any questions about anything you've seen in this, or anything that you would like to do, like things that you're thinking, there must be an easier way for me to be doing this in my day-to-day work with Google Workspace, whether it's in Gmail or Calendar or Google Docs, I'd love to help you. I've got up to 15 minutes to stick around after this to answer your questions. So drop them in chat now. Let's have a look at this video that we get. There's a ton more in Google Vids, by the way, that I'm not showing here. And again, I've actually made 2 videos about Google Vids. One that is a beginner's guide that you can look at or share with people that are just getting started on how to create your first video from scratch. And the second is one looking at more advanced AI features, things like being able to generate a voiceover. So if you aren't confident speaking and recording your own voiceover with a microphone, you could get AI to generate that voiceover for you and drop it into the scenes inside Google Vids. Yeah, so this video generation has also just come to Gemini, as Stuart has said in the chat. You might not see it there yet, it's still rolling out, but it is possible there. If you don't get it there, you might find that you do have it in Google Vids. And there we go, there's the video that's just been created by AI, and it's done a pretty good job of fingers, which it doesn't always do great with fingers when it comes to AI. Okay, definitely don't want that video popping up again. That's the main crux of what I wanted to show you today. We covered some daily admin, looking at Gmail, how you can quickly search for emails from a particular person in your inbox. We looked at calendar and how to organize your calendar and use time insights to get an idea of how you're using your time. We've looked at creating docs, tables, and sheets, and using Gemini to help, prompting Gemini to look at the sentiment from feedback. What else have we done? We created a form, audio overviews in Gemini, and then we've looked at all of the ways that you can create stuff to tell people about the things that you're creating. So with that, it just leaves time for Q&A. So let's have a look if there are any questions in chat. Annie said, sorry if I missed this, but what about some Gemini prompts in Sheets within cells? Yeah, so at the very beginning of this video, we covered that, and there is a video on my channel about how to do that. It's about 2 minutes long if you want to go and check that out. What else have we got? I think there was a question from Caroline earlier. I can color code but not label for some reason. So you need to, when you right click, you should be able to click the plus button, and that will take you to the labels there. And it will add a label to the colors. But it's pretty well hidden. Maybe if I share my screen again, I'll quickly show you what I mean. So on calendar here, if I right click on one of these, you're looking for this plus button. So you probably just see the colors here, but you're looking for the plus button. The other way to do this is that when you create a new event, down here, you'll see the color. and you can click here to change the colors. And again, you're looking for the plus button here to be able to add a label. Are all of these features available in all editions of Workspace? I think the short answer is no, but most of them are available in most editions. For example, Google Vids is actually now available to pretty much everyone, at least for the next year, including using Gemini to create them. And the Gemini side panel will be available to you if you have the right Gemini license. So if you're on Workspace for Business or for Enterprise, Gemini is now included for free. For education, you'll be able to use the Gemini app, like we created the audio overview by uploading files earlier, but you wouldn't see the side panel. So the best way to check whether there is access or not is just to go and give it a go, just to go and try and access those different things. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for more questions whilst we wrap up. But if you haven't already, you can go and subscribe to Workspace Boost, which is my weekly newsletter where I send one tip a week every Wednesday. And you can just scan that QR code to go and sign up. Today, I'm going to, after this webinar is finished in a few minutes, I'm going to send out a recap of everything I've covered here with a link to this video and the other resources that I've mentioned. And that is going to be today's tip. So you won't be missing out. And you can access all of the different previous tips at that QR code and the link on the screen as well. All right, we've got another question. What's your favorite feature? Oh, there are too many to choose from. I basically, everything I've shown you, I use pretty much every day, like all the color. I really like being able to look at time insights. And one underrated part actually of Google Workspace that we haven't looked at today that I find particularly with businesses is using Google Chat. Lots of people end up using things like Slack or other tools. Nothing against those tools, but if you're already in the ecosystem, it makes sense that you should create group chats and spaces to collaborate together and manage files in chat. Sangeeta, learned so much. Didn't know about the AI formula with text prompting, Google Sheets, color coding. Oh, I'm glad it was helpful. Hardy, thanks so much. Really appreciate the kind words, and Tina as well. If I had one feature request for Google, what would it be? To release Workspace Flows tomorrow, because I think Workspace Flows that I showed you earlier that's coming soon is going to be the biggest game changer that we've seen in Workspace for quite a while. The ability to visually be able to connect together different parts of Google Workspace, send information from a form automatically to a gem to process it, to then draft an email. I can think of like 100 different ways to use that are going to save time. So that would be my request. Release Workspace Flows as soon as possible. Thanks, Alistair and Abid as well. Well, look, we'll call it a day there. Thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. As always, if you've got any questions, you can drop them in the comments of my videos or apply to one of the Workspace Boost newsletters. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to try and do these every month or two. We'll do another recap of some new updates that are coming and some of my favorite features as well. I'll see you soon.